superstar. He is an absolute superstar, Tom Mitchell. Cripps at the back. Cripps is too good. Neil, yes! Oh, how good was that?
We're just reminiscing about the old days. I got one of my good mates and all teammates, Dingo Dan Hannebery here. Far out, they were good days, fun days, but also we had some seriously good teams. Start with 2012, where you actually won the premiership. That was my first year at the club, but that was a squad within itself. But then we're going to work towards 16, where the daylight robbery happened. But start us with 2012, and obviously it's a highlight of your career now that you've been removed from footy.
Yep. Oh, it was an amazing day. And as you said, we had a pretty phenomenal team. A lot of guys that probably don't get heralded as much. Lewis Roberts-Thompson, Marty Matner, these sort of players which were pivotal in the win. I think we lost our last 2 or 3 going into the final series. So we're a bit unsure, apprehensive where we sort of sat, albeit within a couple of goals, and then got ourselves ready for a big qualifying final win against Adelaide. Then won the prelim against Collingwood, and then got there in the last day. And I think it's a culmination of all the meetings and the training sessions all the whole year, and you know how hard his pre-season was. I think 2011 and 2012, your first year, you would have experienced it. They were some of the hardest pre-seasons from memory. Spursy 6'3 millimetres, 6'2 millimetres, 6'1 millimetres, and then train.
You were burning the track up then. I remember we had a couple of guys, we used to do a 3K time trial, and if you were getting under 10 minutes on the grass track through terrain, you were flying. And I reckon one year you ran like a 9:40 or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a 9:40. I think it's close. Yeah, 9:40 that year or the year after. And so it's a combination of all that stuff. And then, also the junior days as well. You probably as a 6 or 7-year-old, I remember commentating to myself in the backyard, pretending to be on the grand final, kicking the winning goal, all that sort of stuff. And so you get there, mix of nerves, excitement, anxiety, and then you sort of play, be a part of an amazing win, and you've obviously experienced it. Like just the joy and the emotions after, it's pretty extraordinary, really. And then to contribute in a strong way as well, I think makes it even more special. Yeah,
you're still flat. You didn't have the norm with you right now.
Yeah,
what was the actual vote? I know you would know, so tell me the truth. What was the vote tally? Because Peb's had a good game, obviously, but you were right there. It was a flip of the coin.
Not only in post that game have I called Ryan O'Keefe back in my drinking days and said, mate, can you send a norm to Middle Park?
While you're wearing your blazer.
I've also called Neil Cordy, who was on the panel, the voting. He's on the vote. Said, Neil, get rid of your get rid of your cords and whatever the Crocs were you were back. We used to wear these crook sandals at training sessions. You used to wear these weird sandals and these toes hanging out everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I rang up Neil when I'd had a few drinks and said, mate, what's going on? And he goes, mate, look, to be honest with you, I think what he said to me was we submitted our votes 5 minutes into the last quarter or 10 minutes into the last quarter or something like that. That's what he said to me one night, whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
And then, and what else? And then I think Mick Moldhouse was the other panel judge, and I don't think he was a big fan of the Hanneberys. He sacked my old man back in the Bulldogs days. So my conspiracy was the voting panel was against me, but all in all, I think 14 tackles for O'Keefe on the day was
in
a good
the
effort.
trough. But I was looking at the numbers. You had 29 and 1, and that goal you kicked late in the game. I actually love the celebration as well. Everyone gets me. Everyone's cooked. You're asking everyone to get to you.
Mate, no one got around me. You see Kizza in the background. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
And Kizza's like, and it's like on the haunches. I'm like, mate. Fuck, where am I at?
But do you remember the footage? I think they showed it to us in one of the reviews after that game, the run that you went on to be on the end of that play. I know you would remember it. It was yourself and Kizza.
Yeah.
Obviously, Hawthorn was superstar lineup. You know, they had superstars all over the park. But I think from memory going into that game, one area the Swans thought they could expose the Hawks with all those sort of bigger bodied inside mids was on the outside with a bit of run, the run and pressure, which obviously was your go. And the clip, we'll have to try and track it down, but I remember you run from half back and things are happening, but you're sort of bursting using that power run that was your one wood, and you get on the end of it and you probably kick it, just gets over the line. You're cooked. But do you remember that passage of play clearly or not really?
Yeah, I do. I think from memory, I was on either Mitchell or Lewis, or one of those two players, definitely. And it was half back. It was obviously we were down by maybe 10 points, I think, from memory. And as soon as it was cleared, like there's nothing to lose really. Probably in a real game, you're not going to be as aggressive from half back, but fourth quarter, you're down by 10. You just sort of perfect for me. I love running forward. Yeah. So we'll get back to that later. Yeah, but I just bolted, and probably one of my. I remember it's probably one of my biggest and best runs probably in my career. We just go and things panned out. I think Goodsey might have got a possession. I think Jets might have made a contest. Marty Matner might have made a contest. The ball spilled up to me 45 out on an angle. the opposite side to where the stoppage was, at the other end of the ground. And I remember sweat was dripping because it was quite hot that day from memory. Sun was out. Sweat was dripping in my eyes. I couldn't actually see. I could see, a bit like when it's raining and you're driving the car, you can see straight ahead, but you can't really see clearly. And that's kind of what I was. I'm like, I'm just going to kick it on the boot here and hopefully it goes in. And didn't have many tickets in the tank.
Doesn't matter how it gets there.
And it just got through. And then the celebration, no one got around me.
Yeah, how good's that? Yeah, you were asking for it, no one got to you.
So it was bloody good. It was good memories.
They were the glory years, not only for yourself, but the Swans throughout that period where we were fortunate enough to play a lot of footy together, competing in prelims pretty much every year. And that's, when you played your best footy, All-Australian 13, 15, 16.
Yep.
Who pipped you in the BNFs all those times? Because you were always second, or you would just, like Joey would just get you every time.
Yeah, Joey picked me in 15 and 16.
Yeah, and you won the Coaches Award in 15 as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was strong years. Yeah, Joey, we experienced myself, you, Macca, Kizza, Parksy, Joey. It was a pretty formidable midfield matchup. I mean, out of the names I mentioned, myself, you, Joey and Parksy, and Kizza probably, when I say to a less extent in terms of numbers, we were always regularly getting 28 to 35 touches every week. So it was a pretty dominant midfield group. And it was pretty special. You sort of, as a group, you look at each other going up the race and you sort of know that you sort of knew when we were on, which was most weeks because we won most weeks. But geez, we're going to have a big impact today. Yeah. And it was kind of like if we weren't at halftime or after the game, I was like, what the fuck happened? Like we prepared so well with this gun midfield. Like how did that sort of happen? So I think we're all pretty hard on ourselves from memory, but it was a pretty special group. Yeah.
I don't know if I've taken for granted like how good that team was we had. Obviously the midfield you mentioned, because your focus as a young player is always on, how can I get in the team, stay in the team. And then later in your career, you realise how important team success is and it's all you really want and remember. Yeah. But like we had some seriously good opportunities. Like we'll get to 16, but let's move on to 14 because I got dropped before the 14 final series, which still haunts me a little bit, probably like your Normie. But that was another golden opportunity, or I guess getting to the grand final and being favourites from memory. Yeah.
We had that year, like 12 we were solid all year, but a bit like the Bulldogs in 16, we started peaking the final series in 2012 and won against a Hawthorn side that was probably favourites that year. Their ball movement was just next level. They were dominating teams all year. It was
theirs to lose, wasn't it?
2012 was. And then 14, it was ours to lose. We dominated all year. I think we beat North by about 70-odd points in a prelim. Yeah. Gary Rowan was just streaking down the wing at ANZ Stadium with his red hair. Jets was on fire. I mean, everyone was just playing really good footy. And for whatever reason, early it was pretty tight and tense, but at probably 15, 20 minutes into that first quarter, they were super competitive. It sounds extraordinary for a grand final, but they just seemed to be that little bit more on edge, a little bit harder, and just absolute, win at all cost type mentality. And look, we had an amazing prep, but for whatever reason, we were just that little bit off. A bit like the Swans the last 3 or 4 years, and we just a bit off. And probably, I think we were down by 3 or 4 goals after quarter time, still within a chance. And that second quarter, they blew us apart. And that was a shattering loss. And obviously, you were, disappointing yourself at a final series, which, we'll get to, the motivation you had probably going for the next couple of years. But that created a few scars. I reckon that loss, that was a tough one.
That was a tough one. What do you put that down to in your opinion? Obviously 2014, and as you mentioned, the Swans against Geelong in 22, I think it was, and then this year, that is a pattern for such a good team and good club. What can you put your finger on, for that to happen multiple times? Like you say, you're a bit off. Obviously wasn't a part of it on that particular day in 2014, but I was an emergency and I still remember the boys running up the race. That was really tough to handle on a personal level, but being out there on the field, what can you feel and sense when things aren't going your way? Does the pressure get to you more because it is such a big occasion? Like, what's your opinion on it?
I'm a big believer that if you have a soft kill the week before, it really affects you the next week. So you look at probably the Swans this year. I mean, admittedly they've had some form in the last 3 years, but they had a really soft kill in the prelim. Port weren't really up. They weren't a prelim standard team this year. Let's be honest. Came in, and then the Geelong-Brisbane game was unbelievable in the prelim. Brisbane just so much hardened. Similar with us, I think we went in against smashed, I think it was
North Melbourne?
North, and I think
it was like 80 points at ANZ,
and then I
think
did Hawthorn they just beat Port, I think, Port had an amazing year.
Was that
Port probably
5.1?
should have almost nearly won.
Yeah,
Woke
they-
was just dominating that game. Robbie Gray was on fire. Wingard.
Yeah.
That was an incredible game. Hawks just won. They were unbelievable. And so
Yeah.
they were just that little bit match hardened. I don't think it happens every year, but I know it's quite a regular occurrence no matter what league or level. Funnily enough, the same thing happened in the VAFA this year with the team that absolutely dominated all year, dominated the finals series, had a soft kill, get to the grand final, and the opposite happens with that team that has that hardened run. For whatever reason, mentally and physically, when you have a really hard contest a week before, you're ready to go. Whereas when you win that game, you have the week off, I feel like subconsciously you nurse yourself through a little bit. You want to get through. You don't want to be injured. Whereas you play that week before, you don't need to train much that week anyway because you've already got the match hardened.
Yeah.
But that game on the Thursday or the Saturday when you're not playing, it's between each other. It's just Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
And so I don't reckon you're match hardened. I don't know if that would always be the case, but I find that's a big thing. I think.
Yeah, it's a good
how
point.
you actually fix that, who knows? But
Yeah.
but then the reality is there'd be teams that would have had soft kills and then won the granny, no doubt, in the last 20 years. So a lot of it comes down to mindset and how prepared you are. I mean, I'm surprised that us in 14, even the Swans the last 2 times out of 3 years, how you can't be mentally ready to
it's
go.
It's hard for fans and people
know?
that watch football to understand. And even as athletes, like chatting to some of the boys who I've caught up with in the off season, it's even hard for them to put their finger on. Like it's not like you're not trying. It's not through lack of want or effort. It might look like sometimes on the footage, like it looks like you're not trying, but there has to be something more to it. Who knows what the answer is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the thing where every club and fitness or performance team are trying to work out what's the mindset improvements, what are the brain adaptations we can do during the year. Can we do some extra mindfulness stuff? Can we do cognitive training? Do we do extra recovery? Do we do the barefoot walking on the grass? Whatever it might be,
Tunnels.
extra speed sessions, like just different things to kind of get the edge. I think every single sporting club over the world or in a professional sporting sense will always be trying to find the edge. You just look at some of the best athletes and how they go about it. But reality is when you've got 22 players from that one side, it makes it a bit harder to predict if you're going to get 22 players that are 95% on ready to go.
Yeah.
Who knows what happened the weeks leading in, how sore they are, what's going on externally,
So many factors.
How much anxiety they've had during the week, had they played the game in their head before they've done it. I mean, we've all done that before you go to a footy field and you're absolutely cooked before the ball bounces and you go, fuck, it's going to be a long one today. Hopefully I don't run forward.
Yeah. Well, we're getting to the running forward game. That's probably one of my favourites. But I think on the big games as well, my views on this and just, being around footy as a player, similar to yourself, that in those big games you want not necessarily the most talented guys. Like talent obviously helps get you there, but you need like genuine dogs in your team, like competitors. Like you take a competitor any day of the week, no matter how much a talented player can do throughout a year, you want a dog,
100%.
Come game day in a big game. If you got more dogs than them, you're probably going to win.
Mate, 1,000%, especially in those finals games.
They're so competitive and contest based.
It's contest based. It's, there are elements of beautiful ball movement in a finals game or a grand final, but you look at 80% of the play, it's contested.
Yeah, messy.
You first to the ball. If you're not, how are you going to compete? How are you going to tackle? And then your contested ball running onto the next contest.
Yeah.
That running is almost like that grit running. Yeah. It's not like, and that's a bit like there's competitive running and there's kind of just getting through and looking like you're giving the effort.
Yeah.
And when you're on as an inside or an outside player, your contest to contest running is really strong.
Yeah.
I mean, even your grand final for Collingwood a couple of years ago, like, contest wise, you're not in that team. Who knows, maybe they don't win that game, like from a hard competitive type of player. But you might say another player or teammate we might have played with in the past that beautiful player, beautiful mover, but would have they had that sort of mental or physical fortitude to be able to push on the day and get the job done? I think in the big games, like you were saying, you can't put a price on those sort of players. These days, the amount of times you would have heard it, horse, Dewey, probably a fly. I mean, we need speed. We need speed in the middle.
Yeah.
We need speed in the middle. And don't get me wrong, speed in the middle is really important.
And running capacity is obviously huge.
And you need power.
Yeah.
But as you were saying, you need competitors. And funnily enough, on the big stage, or just, yourself, Joey, Kennedy, Parksy, you're certainly a better runner probably than those two guys. But Parksy and Joey, particularly Joey, he'd will himself on a contest just because he's just a competitive beast. And on the 3K time trial or the yo-yo, he'd be well down the list and you're going, has he been smoking darts all off season with Maxi?
Do you remember when Joey
You know?
did the 3K time trial and he passed out with about 50 metres to go? He hit the deck. We
He
had
looked
to,
like the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
yeah, we had to go back and pick him up. He said he had heat stroke or something.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't even think it was that hot.
I don't know if it was his pre-season, but Jude Bolton and him had a photo. They were smoking cigars in LA. And then I think Reedy, Trent Dennis-Lane and Matt Spanger were the top three in our 2K or 3K.
Yeah.
I think a few of us were injured, but Joey was in that group. And he's like, we've got three of our defenders, key position players winning a 3K whilst their midfielders are smoking cigars in the off-season. And we're just all like, shit. And then a photo surfaced like a week later of Joey just like sucking on a cigar.
Little Dane Rampy.
So,
little Dane Rampy
yeah,
shot.
Ramps was also a big, he was a big culprit for the darts. Well,
I
not
miss
now,
those
not
boys.
now as a
I miss
captain.
those. No, of course
but
not.
Pre-captaincy.
Pre-captaincy, yeah.
Daily Mail, thank you.
Yeah, Daily Mail stitch up, that was.
Well,
Joey's...
was it Frosty?
Yeah,
Semi-Frost.
Yeah. Good memory. Joey's game in 2016 on that was incredible because we were just talking off air before about how it's always the winning team, the Norm Smith medalist comes from that team. But 2016, Joey was the best player on the ground in both of our
100%.
opinions. He's had 36 and 3 and he's absolutely dominated the game. But, you know, I don't know. What's your view on this? Because you can have an argument for...
Yeah.
You know, the losing team shouldn't, you know, have the recipient on their team. But when you're so dominant.
Was it what year did Lenny Hayes win was it when they lost? Because obviously,
I reckon that was the draw he won it.
Yeah,
and then Pendles must have won when they won. So
well, there you go.
I think there's only ever been two. Juddy was one of them in
05?
05.
Yeah, and that was super close. I mean, the game was title game. I think it was 56 all with like maybe 6 minutes to go. They blew out the last 2 or 3 goals late in the game. So like it looks like a blowout on paper, but it really wasn't. Given his dominance, Jason Johannesson had a good game. Don't get me wrong. Was he the best player on the ground that day? I don't think so. But then it's like, well, do you give it to the winning team? Do you not? It's a 60 in one, half a dozen the other.
We're probably biased because we love
We're
Joey
biased
as
and
well.
love Joey. It was being out there and watching it back as one of the all-time games. Like in a grand final in front of 100,000, it was pretty special.
I remember like it felt like the stadium was shaking, but also a few instances in the game, my experience of this was it felt like I was in a video game.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
And like even that saps energy from you. Like I remember a few efforts, I think in the third quarter, like I was chasing, it might have been Liberatore or Stringer from memory and just being more cooked than I usually would because, and this might be something for fans to understand as well, that atmosphere can sap your energy because it's just so much on your
100%.
senses and your anxiety. It can really get your energy and you give it everything.
Some of those goals,
factor.
I mean, you obviously had some amazing games, 40, 50s and whatever. I'd say that was one of you, in a big game, it was one of your best games up until that point, I reckon. 26 goals, 26 and 2, I think.
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
A few tackles in the trough.
26 and 2, massive goals. You had a big impact. And you've had games where you had 40 and kicked and you've had a big impact. But I reckon the severity of the moment, I just remember being out there, you and Joe were cracking in, but also the quality of the touches were good. So, I mean, that would have, for you personally, after not having played 14, that must have been a good feeling.
I think it was a driver as
Obviously,
much.
obviously losing, not
Yeah,
great,
I know.
but actually
but
playing well,
like
you would have felt
missing
good
out.
about yourself.
Like 12 missed out on obviously what you boys experienced. Like when they say you're a part of it, when you're in the squad, you don't really feel a part of it when you miss out. It's tough. It's just the reality. 14 obviously got dropped for the final series, which I was probably a bit stiff to be honest. Then 16, you're a part of a losing grand final. But I guess the effort in those big games is a culmination of all this heartbreak and missing out. So maybe that was where that was potentially channeled from. But yeah, like you said, it was one of the best games to be a part of, even though it was such a heartbreaking loss because, I remember watching the prelim the week before when the Doggies just beat the Giants because the Giants had our measure.
They did.
They always used to beat us. And I remember thinking at the start of that week, we're playing the Dogs, like I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, same.
And whether that affected us at all or not, but our preference was to play the Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I thought, we're every chance now. Like we should,
Yeah.
we went in favourites.
Yeah.
But then not looking back, we had, I think Heaney was injured maybe Parker did his knee the week before, hurt his PCL. He was sore.
Macca did his calf, remember?
Macca went in with a really cooked calf. I think Jonesy maybe was sore. Millsy came in with a bad hammy. And then we obviously had Bud to his ankle in the first and me to my knee in the fourth. So like you need a lot of luck and grannies. I mean, I don't know what your injury status, what the team's injury status was in 2023 at Collingwood, but
There's always, it's so
it
late in
seemed
the
like you guys
year.
are pretty fit, but like certainly in that game, the footy gods for whatever reason weren't with the Swans and they were with the Dogs, rightly so. But I reckon with a bit of luck, we you almost snatched that. It was a heartbreaking loss, and a lot of us, myself and you included, Joey, Macca, we still talk about it. Bud, how do we let that one slip?
I know.
Bud, I think Bud still to this day, he's
he
devastated.
still thinks about it. What was in the last quarter? I remember, so I came on for you when you did your knee really badly in the last quarter, and obviously no one knew you were always going to dig into to get back on the ground, even though you were actually playing on one leg. You were coming off, doing the emu run, coming off.
Looking like an absolute idiot. I was like, Matty, Timmy,
Spazzy,
strap it up.
Anyway, so I've come on for you, and then you've had your knee assessed or whatever. Probably just Greeny's just strapped it up in the space of 30 seconds, and then you've called your own rotation. Someone's come off.
Strapped it up with his sideburns.
Yeah, correct. You've got back out there, and then it must have been one of your first touches back on the field on the far wing.
I got a handball. I'm like, you beauty. I'm on here. Like my knee's fine, and then I've gone to change direction, and it's kind of gone sideways. And then as Bud's out the back, and he had some good space on Boyd. It was an easy 40-metre over the back kick. I've gone to launch it, and it's gone about 15 metres off to the side, sort of trickled out of bounds. He's like, fuck, mate, fuck. And I'm like, mate, I'm done. And then I saw Pari with his bald head, the runner, Pari. Pari's just like sprinting out. I looked at him, and I'm like, I'm cooked. I'm coming off, and I've just sort of limped off. And
so we're playing one man down as well late in that quarter because you were one of our best players, and you've gone down. Did you try and come back on again, or you called? No,
I did a quick little side to side. What they realised is the medial was just cooked. I think it was a grade 2 and a bit medial. They were weighing up surgery post. It was pretty. Yeah.
How long were you in that big? Remember you had the big the Mad Mondays. You had the big stiff.
I had the big stiff brace. I had that for about 5 weeks, and I did one of my bloody things I did every now and then. I just did the no piss in the off season.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what, lost the granny. I'm going to have my best year ever.
Yeah.
And then came back, was the fittest I've ever been, won the 3K'er, and then just had cooked groins after that because I was running
off centre.
Off centre, and because I wasn't quite ready to be running after 6 weeks. I probably needed 12 weeks off.
Yeah.
But, given I was feeling so fresh and ready to go, usually I'll be a bit dusty that time of the year. Yeah. I felt that good around the streets of New York. I was hammering it around and then came back, was doing these agility tests or something, whatever we do, and then it just sort of felt my groin going. That was... I was okay, but when you're just not quite right for the whole year.
And do you reckon that was what you started to chase when you started to have more issues? Because you still played a lot in 2017 and 2018.
Yeah, the groins got really bad. I didn't train at all that year. I trained 10 minutes every Thursday.
Is that right?
Yeah, I had bad OP. Was getting jabs in just above my pubic bone to play. And then Joshy, the trainer, was putting Joshy and Greeny were putting all sorts of deep heat, Percutane, which is it's like rocket fuel, putting it around your sort of pelvic area. And
that was the heat patches?
Yeah, but it's like heat patches, but it's called Percutane. Rishi Shaw used to put it on his Achilles.
Yeah.
It's this deep heat, but it's ×5.
Yeah.
And you can't shower after it because it's so hot.
It burns. Yeah, no, I know exactly the stuff.
So we used to put that on there to play. So that was kind of a process. 2017, I still had after round 6, still had a pretty decent year. Actually had some really good games, but then no preseason 2018. I think I only played 12 games that year, and that's kind of when that lack of training and preseason, that's when the soft tissues started the back end of that year.
Well, then that leads us to the trade. How long into that last year in 2018 did you know that you wanted to come back to Melbourne, or what actually happened with your trade? Yeah,
it was probably middle of the year, I reckon, or maybe even earlier, maybe sort of March, April. At the time, I was really struggling mentally, going up and down on the spot. I went away, actually went to a mental health hospital for about 2 or 3 weeks, got some help there. I was struggling mentally, and then came back really refreshed. Actually had a really good finish of the year, played well against Melbourne. We got into the finals. I think we lost first game to Giants, but played pretty well. My body was kind of feeling really good.
Yeah.
And I think I started, during that year, because my groins were so cooked, I went and started seeing our good friend Mark McGrath.
What a man. Love
What
Marky.
a man.
I'm glad you got a mention.
The DNS in the dynamic neuromuscular stability. So basically changed the way that I moved and ran and sprinted and all that stuff. And he was able to change my running gait, which was which was imperative to be able to train and play injury free. So I was flying down on a Wednesday night for the Wednesday morning, doing the day off, see him for 3 hours, come back, train. Weekends when I could, I'd see him, and then the opportunity to go to St Kilda kind of came up. The 5-year contract, V3 years remaining at Sydney. I was struggling a little bit off field.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I need some more support. It's a 5-year contract. My body's just holding on, but this guy down here is actually really helping, and I'll be able to see
better access to him.
I'll be able to see him every day.
Yeah.
Who knows? I might be able to prolong my career, because the reality is, if I didn't see him, I might have only had one more year left. At least I only played 16 games at St Kilda, and probably should have been more, but I may not have played one more. So I think I'll look back and go, look, you regret that you sort of regret that you weren't able to play more and have more of an impact, but. I think if I had my time again, I would have made the same decision.
Yeah.
Given the information that I was provided at the time.
Yeah. It's almost that saying of, it could have been better, but it also could have been worse. That's the perspective. But you finished your last game, against the Swans, ironically, which is pretty bizarre. But in true Dan Hand fashion, you've actually got 3 votes, best on ground.
Snuck him in there somehow.
Hannebery 3 votes just after the last game. You would have been going up to Joey and all the boys.
Well, I think, because let's be honest, the list manager and the coach generally are in cahoots and go like, mate, we think you should, hang the boots up.
Yeah.
It's not, rarely is it the player going, I'm done. I think maybe Lenny Hayes might have been the only player, I think,
There's not many miracle stories like that. Maybe
Lenny
like
Hayes,
a Luke Hodger or someone like that.
This is what Jaron Geary said was Lenny Hayes. But so I think I had a couple too many at that stage. And I think I might have grabbed rats in a headlock. And I was like, mate.
Keep me going.
Yeah, mate. I've had 30. My bodies feel good. Like,
you wanted to keep going again after barely playing.
I'm ready to go. Like, I wanted to keep playing. Because I came back after being in Germany, got on this treatment on my calves, and I came back and played you guys. You were at Hawthorn then, I think.
You were insane. So I reckon
2022. And I was one of their better players in that game. My GPS was the second best behind Hillies, maybe the same as Jack Sinclair, who's a gun runner. And so I'm like, well, all the metrics physically, and then obviously, stats wise were there. So off no training, and then obviously played pretty shit against Geelong, did my ankle and that's when they're like, mate, you can't move. But I've had a cooked ankle.
Yeah.
Had to freshen up and then play well against Sydney. So I thought, I'm good to go. But then that week leading into that game is when you get the tap on the shoulder. And in the end, I was mentally pretty done anyway. If you go on and you try and play somewhere else, it would have been...
Yeah, because Gold Coast reached out. Dewey reached out, didn't he?
Yeah, Dewey reached out. It didn't really escalate as much. We had Craig Cameron on trade radio, me and Tom Morris. He goes, that's the first I've heard of that, Dan. But Dewey and me and Reece Shaw, we all had a 3-way conversation via phone. And I think because I wasn't genuinely serious about it at the time, they moved on. But I kind of went away with some of the Swans boys overseas, came back, was training, felt great. I was like, what's going on, boys? Can we get a contract? And then there was just absolute crickets. And so that was the career done. And look, I still look back on the St Kilda days. We made that final in 2020. We're in the hub. We won the final against Bulldogs. That was a cracking game. Played in a semi against Richmond that year when they won it. We just lost to them. Look back on those days and have some great memories. We were able to sort of build I thought what we were able to build there was internally a good culture. We felt really felt like the club was going in the right direction. Made some great friendships who I'm still in contact with today. And there's great people a part of that club. But unfortunately things didn't quite work out.
And we better go back to the Swans days because we were just talking off air. I'm not sure how much of this many of the good stories and memories can be shared, but we were just talking about some of the best sprays we've ever got in our time. We're both on the receiving end. There's a couple pretty good ones from Hawks.
There's a couple on field and a few off field.
Few on and few off field. So
we're going to go to the on fields or the off fields?
I think my favourite on field one ever was the clip of you against Collingwood. Sorry, multiple clips. I'm going to say it was 15 clips in a row.
15 and 20.
And the
theme
Hannebery
was massacre.
Running forward without wanting the football yet. And I reckon it was 15 Dan Hannebery clips in a row where it was balls in dispute half back and Hannes just tearing at the far side for a switch. And you probably still had your 30, but that was one of the best bakes I've got because that was just, all right, Hannes had his clip, who's next? And I was like, nah, more Hannes.
It was unbelievable. I was like, they've got a vendetta against me, because I think it was round 9 or 10. I think I might have had a few coaches' votes, a couple of Herald Sun, reports.
You're keeping tabs.
I just got the new Audi Q5, had the new short back hair and the short back and sides.
The Acorn we used to call that.
The genuine Acorn.
Yeah,
and BT goes, that's a me haircut. I'm like, so I was walking around with the Acorn.
We were calling you the Acorn too.
And even Horse at half time, he's looking at me, giving this glare. And I'm like, it's because I got the Acorn. I thought he gave me the glare, not because I ran forward, because I got the Acorn.
It had to be the Acorn.
But I remember
it was a high cut too from memory.
It was way too high. He actually butchered it. It wasn't a fade. It was up here, and it was an Acorn. It was this shit house. And I'll never forget it. And I remember being on side bottom, Swan at different stages, and the ball's in dispute. And they both, Swan in particular, runs forward as well. So it's like whoever wins this, they're going to kick a goal. I think I had 30, but then Swanee had 36, kicked 2 or 3.
But you know what? If we win the game, it probably never gets brought up.
Oh, they were harrowing highlights to sit through. Like you'd sit there, and I was you're just sinking in your chair every time. And I thought, okay, there's 5 or 6. I'm done now. Yeah. And there's another 10. And I was just like, fuck.
Yeah, there's nothing worse in those meetings. And it's changed now, like especially what I've noticed at Collingwood, like it doesn't happen. But those Swans days were brutal. Like the leading teams model of, it was brutal. Like not good for anyone's mental health when there was the absolute massacres.
And it's like, you get feedback, right? And it's like, in your head, you're like, that's fucking bullshit. I don't agree with that feedback. And you're like, Goodsy, mate, you're not fucking tackling yourself, mate. Yeah. And it's like, mate, accept the feedback. Yeah. And you go, well, fuck the feedback. It's bullshit. And you're not fucking doing it either. Yeah. No, I'm not saying the Goodsy, but it could be anyone.
Remember, it was like whoever
got
nominated for the day, it was like, all right, we're going to sit 3 blokes out the front and tell them what we think about them, but then they could never have it.
I think the most extraordinary feedback I've heard was to Bud from Nick Smith. He's like, Bud, Bud, you're just not man the mark. You're just not man of the mark. And then Bud's like, in his head, he's like, come on, Smitty. Like, fucking come on, Smitty.
I've kicked 100.
You've got the best player in the game. He doesn't man the fucking mark. Like, you boys just fucking defend.
Yeah.
He's like, but Bud, you're not man of the mark. As he used to turn around like that.
Yeah, we got some good footage of that. I mean, remember the impersonations?
You've got a really good impersonation.
I got a good Smithy.
And then Bud's just sitting there and he's just like, he gave the glare. Because I used to sit, I think Bud used to sit to my right and you can see Bud glaring at Smithy. I don't think he said anything, but he's like, basically, you are kidding yourself. But then funnily enough, like this is why the Nick Smiths of the world and these amazing leaders that you have that not only were amazing players in their own, like Nick's a Hall of Fame member, but him having the courage and balls to Bud. Mate. Bud then man the mark and defend like an animal for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and Smithy was one of the best leaders I've ever played with.
Yeah, he was unbelievable.
He was like not big at all, but he was an absolute nightmare to play on. Like even at training, he would just like a glove. Yeah. He'd wear ya. And in the gym, he'd bench like 130 for like a 70-kilo guy, and he'd just absolutely torch guys.
He's a freak. And obviously Cyril, the most feared opponent of anyone.
Yeah.
He used to go, yep, I got Cyril today. I knew full well he was going to have his measure. And Cyril probably knew it as well.
Yeah.
So those sort of players, he was unbelievable. But that was one of the funnier feedback sessions because of the fallout. Because I think Bud probably didn't speak to Smooch for weeks. But
it got the result.
So it's like if you're going to have leaders that don't care if they're liked and they get the result, that's what it's all about.
I just remember Reedy was always one that was handpicked as like, Reedy, you're getting feedback today. He got feedback like 5 times a year, every year. Just
Craig Berg got feedback from Kirky saying, mate, it's really important that you just improve your hygiene. You just get sick all the time. You just look a bit crook and you're always sick and you're just always sick and and I think as Shorey started calling Birdie Gout. That was his nickname. Yeah. And obviously gout's an infectious disease from
so flat if he hears
too much alcohol. But his feedback was purely like, mate, you're too sick, your immune system's low, like maybe start cleaning your house.
Yeah.
Washing your clothes, brushing your teeth. You just start doing some normal hygienic human things. And everyone was like, that is the most bizarre feedback of all time. But I
love reminiscing about these days. Like we had such a good time, like on field, off field. But that's the best thing about the Swans culture was that we're all from different states. We'd come together. We'd literally do everything together.
Yeah,
like we'd play together, then we'd go, Friday nights after training, we'd always be together. Casablanca, I'll tell you, name it. You'd have
Casablanca.
One night you got poked in the eye on game day. We played someone at the SCG
against West Coast.
And you went out because we're all going out. We do everything together. You come out with a Pirates eye mask on. I remember looking over and has Hannah's actually come out tonight?
Someone sent that photo through.
And it's you with a pirate eye mask.
I got badly poked. I think it was against Gaff or something. We had a win against the SCG a Saturday afternoon, and Gibbsy puts the eye drops in my eyes, fully red, like cooked, and he's put this massive patch on my eye. And then I'm like, can I go out? He goes, yeah, just don't get poked and just don't drink too much. I've gone to Casablanca, like cruising around Casa with, like an idiot with an eye patch on, and everyone's like just taking videos and photos, and I was just carrying on with it.
Him.
I couldn't see anything, so I was in a nightclub, pitch black with one eye patched up after a win, and then at recovery, I not only did I have one bloodshot eye, the other bloodshot, I was pretty bloodshot as well.
That was that's one of my all time favorites.
What about there was a game? I think it might have been 2015. It might have been 2015. So we lost to Hawthorn in 2014. Played an amazing game against Hawks. We won. From memory,
is this when we came down to Melbourne?
Yeah, you remember you were tagging Mitchell, Sam Mitchell. You stitched him up. You've had 30 points. You stitched him up. You've had a gripping game. You stitched him up. I remember it. And then traditionally, once again, we all used to go out as a team. So if we won, Macca and Joey would be like, we're going to the Emerson.
Led by the leaders.
You'd have 25, because the emergencies, 24 players.
Yeah, it was compulsory pretty much.
Whether you drunk or not, if you don't drink, that was fine. But if you drank, regardless, we're getting to this pub or whatever, when we're celebrating the win. It was awesome. They were amazing times. As you said, like we had an amazing team. I think the other reality was we trained incredibly hard. Our standards were probably...
Yeah.
I don't reckon many sides...
Ahead of its time in terms of how hard we train.
Our standards are incredible.
Set, the team up, but also so many guys' careers who have gone on to do great things who were at the squad at that time, whether it be Heaney and Millsy, Georgie Hewitt, these guys, Toby Nankervis, guys who learnt from guys like yourself, Macca, Kizza, Joey, that this is how it is. We work bloody hard and we stay connected. And
we enjoyed ourselves, as we said, within reason. But the most important thing was if you enjoyed yourself, you had to be there training Monday or training Tuesday. You could not train. And if you didn't, you had to have a really good excuse why.
Yeah.
And if you didn't perform the next weekend, but the leaders knew that you'd had a few beers a week before, they would personally one-on-one have a chat with you, or you'd be in front of the leadership group and go, mate, understand, X, Y, Z, but going forward, if you're going to do that, you need to perform. And if it happens again, you basically, you're banished from the piss. The rain was there and the respect was there. If you want to do it, that's fine, but you got to come up and A, train, and B, most importantly, play well the next week. So, I think we trained and prepared incredibly hard, but certainly we enjoyed ourselves. But if you didn't perform the next week...
there was a lot of accountability. I remember...
it had to be accountable.
Goodsy was obviously the captain through a number of those years. And I remember when I first got to the club and, you learn from guys like Jude. Jude was another ripper.
Jude was a star.
Absolute best. Craig Bolton, these guys. And, Goodsy was a key part of what was created there. And he was as big as anyone on, you need to live your life and you need to, treat yourself, whether it's getting a Palmer on a Friday night or going for beers with the boys. You need to live your life, but you need to be there early on Monday, ready to go. And we always did that. We never shortcut the work, but I think that's why we were so successful up there. It would have been nice to win that premiership, but it was still a successful group. Over that 5-year period, I'm not sure what the win-loss record would have been, but it would have been pretty strong.
It was high. I think we probably were a bit, I don't know whether we were, because we won the grand final 2012 and then made the prelim the next year in 13.
The grand final 14, 15 semi, 16
15
granny.
Semi, 16 granny. Then 17 semi again. That was a year where 17 we lost the first 6. We went in 0-6 in round 7, and then we won the next 17 games.
Yeah.
And then we went after a player every game. So I think round 7 we went after Mitch Robertson. Round 8 we went after Zeeble. Round 9 we went after Jack Stephen. Round 10.
What do you mean by go after them?
As in, when I say go after
them,
we have one player that righto, if we go past him, we're going to let him know he's going to be in for a tough day. We're going to give him a hidden shoulder. We're going to be verbal. We're going to tackle him to hurt. These sort of things within the rules, obviously. And I remember Stewie Maxfield on the sideline just tearing shreds off Mitch Robertson. And Mitch Robertson was running to the bench to have a go at Stewie and start boxing on with Stewie Maxfield. But that's just how invested the whole playing group and the coaching staff were. And I remember Mitch Robinson was because we played the Lions in round 7 when we were 0-6. And Robbo was the one that was just generating all their play and all their energy. And we're like, if we cut it off of the snake's head, which was Robbo at the time for the Lions, it'll go a big way to us winning the game. And sure enough, we just got him off his game. He was giving away free kicks, giving away 50s, got 3 goals off his ill discipline, won the game. And then we realised that investing into that, because we're all trying to do, as we're all stars in this team, that we're all trying to do too much and we're getting nothing done. So we sort of narrowed it down to 3 focus points, like contested ball, tackle, our 45 defensive running patterns out of the stoppage, whatever it is. And then our 4th one was around what player we were going after that game as a 22. So it really sort of narrows
it. It's a galvanizer as well.
Galvanised
a lot of teams
the group
do it still.
And it galvanised us, and then we were able to win 2 or 3 off the back of that, and then we won the next. After that, we won the next 17, and every game was a final. We made the finals. Admittedly, we were a bit fatigued. We smashed Essendon that day. Like, it was embarrassing how badly we beat them. We went after Zach Merritt that day, who was their best player. We shut him down and then went into the game against Geelong, the semi, and they won by about 55-60 and just cooked us. That was it. And then after that, we struggled to kind of get going after that.
Yeah, that's good insight. Good memories too, far out. You'd love to just go back for a couple of days and just how close our group was. But what about off field now? So you're playing this new sport called Kabibi, and you said you got to. Is it Kabibi?
Kabaddi.
Kabaddi.
It's pronounced Australian. Yeah.
So tell me what you were telling me outside before when you said it's India's second biggest sport. Who's in the team with you currently? You're competing. You've actually just come off a concussion. You've got a bit of airhead in you right now.
I'm not my sharpest. I had a concussion, probably my biggest one since 2011 when Alwyn Davey knocked me out. I really didn't have many concussions at all, luckily, in my footy career.
Just before you get to, how do you say it? Kabaddi. Before we get to Kabaddi, that Alwyn Davey story is so funny. So head trainer, James Green, shout out to Greenie.
Only Greenie.
So that was back in the early days of the sub rule.
The sub-vest just started.
Yeah, so you got knocked out pretty bad.
Pretty bad, yeah. Davey got me late. I think he might have got 4. It was a bad hit.
Yeah, and you've come off, dazed out of it. And then you, as you always do, you said, get me on.
Like, get me on, I'm good to go. I'm good to go.
You're good. And then the trainer said to you, mate, you were subbed out 5 minutes ago. You've been wearing the vest for 5 minutes and you're blowing up. You didn't remember it.
So what they did was I was arguing with the physio to my left and then subtly to the right, the doctor slipped on the vest. And as he was slipping it on, it was like I thought he was putting on a jumper. So I've kind of like, I've let him do it. I'm like moving my arms to get the vest on as I'm absolutely berating the physio that I'm good to go, Matty Cameron.
Get me on,
And then meanwhile asking me if he can rub my my glutes.
Calf hammies, glutes. You used to get the calf hammies, glutes, quads back.
Calf hammies, glutes.
No one else could get a massage.
And then a couple of Timmy needles in there as well. Our other physio, Timmy Needham, used to put the needles into the glutes. How good was Timmy Needles? Anyway.
Yeah, Matty McCutcheon. We had a good crew of
Matty
physios.
McCutcheon. It was a great crew. Anyway, and as I'm arguing, they're all laughing because I'm blowing up and then it shoots to the big screen and I've just got this irate look as I've got the red vest on and I'm looking up and I see the red vest and I'm like, what the fuck is it? What's this? And I see the vest and I'm like, and then I'm like, take it off and throw the vest at him.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was all over.
Because it triggers anger when you get concussed. Everyone responds slightly different I've actually haven't really had one, but from what I've heard, well, actually haven't had one at all.
Yeah.
But people get sad, cry, get anger, and you were filthy.
Yeah. I was.
You're abusing.
And then, funnily enough, on the Thursday, the game Kabaddi that we're playing, it's India's second most popular sport. We believe anywhere from 60 to, it's very random, anywhere from 60 to 100 million Indian fans will be watching December 28th when we play India's pro team. It's a collection of 8 ex-AFL players. Joey Kennedy's a skipper, Mark Murphy, Liam Shields, Michael Hibbard, Dyson Heppel, Brett Delidio.
A few good tacklers in there.
Ben Nugent and myself, and then Campbell Brown's the coach. And then Lewis Martin's sort of structured all the ex-head of Channel 7. So he's basically structured and done this whole show really. And we've been training pretty hard. Tuesday, Thursdays, a lot of footwork and then a lot of just full-on like just gameplay. It's like intense British Bulldog, Tiggy, and like a handball game with no footy.
So there's method to it. It's not just
There's method to it.
And
And there's actually, when you're the defending team, how are you actually going about it? And then certainly as an offensive player or the radar, when you're trying to touch as many people as you can and get across your line, how are you actually doing that? It's bizarre. We're learning every game. But when you're playing it, Bill Gowers is another one who's in the team. When you're playing it, we've all said how fun it is. But then watching it initially, we're like, what is this game? We still kind of go, what is going on? But when you're playing it, you kind of get a feel for it. And then last Thursday, I was able to break a few tackles and nearly get across the line. I think it was Ben Nugent, who's an only non-AFL player who's played the game before. He's playing for us.
Yeah, you can catch
and he came and just gave me an accidental sort of roundhouse. And I just remember seeing stars. And I don't reckon I've been as badly dazed for a long time as I was
since Alwyn Davey days.
And I was super angry that night too.
They probably threw the red vest at you again and said, mate, you're done.
Yeah, I was. So tonight, I won't be training tonight.
Yeah. So how many nights a week are you training?
We're doing Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay. And how long do the sessions go for? And are they
an hour and a half?
Pretty physically demanding?
Last week, they put me and Shieldsy as these two center tackle, which means
He's a great tackler, by the way.
And me and he were just going, so I think it was like 15 or 20, efforts in a row of just like bang, full on tackling. You've got Joey or Delidio or Murphy come at you 100 miles an hour and you're just going 1, 2. And so like it was probably the most I've tackled ever because I didn't like tackling.
Your shoulders be cactus.
And I was just, we're both like, all right, next 2 weeks, we're both cooked.
Yeah.
And then copped the hit long after. So it is pretty intense and taxing. It's a bizarre game, but who knows? It could be something. It could be massive.
Yeah.
They keep saying it could be massive, or it could be absolutely nothing. But we're pretty excited about what's ahead.
Mate, it looks good fun. Anyway, mate, thanks so much for the chat. We better wrap it up because you're in the corporate world now. You got your Mercedes out the front. Moving on to bigger and better things. We better get you out of here so you can crunch a few more deals.
Crunching a few more deals for the Jones Real Estate team. So I've got to plug Paul and the Jones Real Estate boys. So it's been good.
Good work, Jonesy. Good to chat, Hannahs, and great to reminisce as well.
Thanks for having me, mate.